Okay, there we go. Okay, so we are going live in the Facebook group and it should be working. I'll find out later if it's not. and, and we have a lot to cover tonight between business and reality television. So we'll jump right into it. So welcome everybody who is here live. If you are getting a chance to come hang out with myself and Hayley tonight on the live stream, or whether you're catching the replay or listening to this on the podcast, thank you so much for being here. We have been doing this series now where I've been inviting back different entrepreneurs that I've worked with in the past to talk about all the things that they have learned since starting their business. And I know that Hayley has gone through lots of different things, and I'm really excited to hear about the evolution of your business. It's been a little while, so like I was saying before, I'm excited to hear the updates. And yes, and then we can also make our reality television recommendations and documentaries. So yeah, without further ado, welcome, Miss Hayley. Thank you so much for being
here. Oh, thank you for having me.
It's so exciting.
Yeah. Do you just want me to talk about, the process where I'm at right now, or?
Yes, to all of the above. If you wouldn't mind, first kind of just sharing a little bit more about you and, maybe kind of like what led up to us working together and where you are now.
Okay. Well, I'm Hayley Belveal. I am from Lake Jackson, Texas, a small town south of Houston, but I currently live in Austin, Texas. I went to the University of Texas in Austin for my undergraduate, and Angelo State University, which is a very small university in West Texas, for physical therapy school. And I got out of physical therapy school, and my first job was terrible, but I felt like I've kind of come full circle. And towards the end of my time working full time, I saw the same patterns cropping up, basically high volume clinics. And at that clinic in particular, I didn't have a lot of mentorship opportunities, so it made it even more difficult. So I was only at that first clinic for about 4 months. I quit before I even found another job. And then I just kind of took the first job I could get, and it was a traveling job, but full-time, so full-time pay, to 7 different clinics. So it was really hard, really stressful. Did that a couple years. Then we moved to Austin, and I worked full-time for a physician-owned therapy clinic, which I loved. I loved that I got to see the doctor's notes and see exactly what was going on instead of getting prescriptions that said knee pain. I actually got like, oh, this is the specific surgery we did, and here's the post-op report and everything. But then just before COVID, they went into a partnership with a PT management company, and they started having us see higher volumes of patients. There was a lot of micromanaging, and this was just before COVID. And during COVID, I got laid off, and that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to start my own business, because they didn't know how long we were going to be laid off for. And after about 5 years of practicing anyhow, I was kind of getting antsy, like, what else can I do? It's the same old thing at the clinic, but I was too scared to open my own practice. But when you're laid off, there's not really anything to be scared of. So I had been listening to Jared Carter's podcast, the cash-based physical therapy, before COVID. And so during COVID, when I was laid off, I listened, and Rob Vining was one of the guests, and he had this whole telehealth movement, and he had a Facebook group. And so I jumped in on that. He provided free educational materials for how to set up your website and a telehealth platform for really cheap. So I did that. And then I got rehired 6 weeks later. But as I said before, the company was super micromanaging. And with them wanting us to increase our patient volume, I just didn't feel like I was giving the care that I should, and maybe not necessarily even billing the way I'm supposed to. So I reached out to Morgan because I knew that she could keep me accountable and keep me on track while I was trying to juggle working full time and having 2 kids and a husband who works a lot.
Yeah.
So, and then I finally left in March of 2021.
I think it was like a couple months after like we had stopped working together. Yeah. I think you told me you quit, and I was like, praise the Lord.
But then I picked up some PRN work 3 days a week for a girl who was on maternity leave. And when she came back, I still was not quite where I wanted to be. So I've still picked up PRN work while doing my business. But just the past couple months, I've decreased my PRN hours to just from like 20 to 25 to 10 or 15. Because things were getting a little too hectic. And so that's kind of where I am right now.
Yay! Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I know that like one thing that I think is interesting with like doing this series and talking to lots of different people, and I'm sure like since you started your business and talking to like other practice owners, it feels like although we like almost when we get started, like sort of feel alone because you're starting like a, solo practice. So many of our journeys like started the same way. Like a lot of us have experienced a lot of the same things. And, it takes a lot of courage to say, I think I'm actually going to like do something about this because, I'm uncomfy compromising my ethics and, like I want something different, and I deserve something different and better for myself. So I really appreciate that. And I know like when we first met, like, I think those are some of the things that, like we had in common with our journey to starting a business. And so it was really easy to be like, let's team up because we need to do something about it. And so I'm curious, of course, like what we were talking about before, since we left off, with your practice, because I think it's been probably about like 6 months or so, maybe since like our last like big check-in, I suppose. I know we've been kind of like email buddies and message buddies and everything. Tell me like, well, me, but also, for anybody listening, if you don't mind sharing like the evolution of like your ideal patients, like your niche and everything, like where we started and where we ended and where you are now. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the past year's gone.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Okay, so when we first started working together, I know you had encouraged me to niche down. And so I changed my business, what I was promoting anyway, from at-home telehealth PT to soccer fitness and recovery. And so I really started targeting soccer clubs, soccer trainers, and then I've since done talks for clubs, recreational leagues, to the coaches, teaching them on things they can do for injury prevention for their players. And I even did a talk for a high school girls soccer team on injury prevention. And then the coach kind of wanted some other information too, like sleep habits and things, because high schoolers like to be on their phone till all hours, which I like to also.
I know it.
Like that habit. And then I even started coaching, which I've never done before, for one of the clubs that's just right down the street from my house. And they actually pay pretty well. I was like, why am I doing physical therapy? I'm like, why do I have a doctorate when, pay is unusually high.
I've wondered that so many times.
Yeah. And,
Like,
and when he told me how much they were paying me, they said, oh, well, and if you got a coaching certification, we get more. Like he was justifying it low. I'm like, okay. So anyway, I helped coach this girls team that they're not club, but they weren't rec, but they were kind of in this in-between area trying to figure out where they wanted to go ultimately. And so I felt like that's helped me get into the soccer world a little bit more and network with more people like that. However, I have had to stop doing some of those things because I told you my husband works a lot.
yeah.
And so it was a little too taxing on our home life with having the 2 kids and things like that.
Yeah.
So I actually feel like more recently I have been marketing the at-home telehealth side of things. Also, I caught the eye of a neurologist in town who treats Parkinson's patients somehow. And so I have a few Parkinson's patients on my caseload, which isn't quite the direction I imagine myself going. But their schedule kind of works with my schedule. I did a vendor event at a Parkinson's symposium last week, which I know. So the word is getting out that I come to the house. Most of the patients, since I'm honest with them, I haven't, worked with Parkinson's a lot in my career, but I'm happy to work with you. Most of them that this neurologist is sending me have already been through the big program anyhow, and they're just wanting something extra. But yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, what's happening right now. I'm kind of starting to focus more on senior communities and things like that and feel out what can happen there. Since the efforts for meeting people and networking with soccer, the hours are just not so good for me right now. So
yeah. Well, Hayley, I think that's like so cool because like it sounds like to me that kind of, like maybe where we left off, we were in a place like where it was still like the soccer thing was still kind of like taking shape, and we're in a place where it's like we need more clients, we need more patients, right? And then you did that. And like now you're in a place where you're getting like this new influx of like another niche, and you're having to say like, oh, I can't work with all these soccer players anymore right now, because of my own personal life. Which is just like kind of like cool, it's almost like level up since last year, because you're kind of like choosing, you're not in a place anymore. It sounds like to me where you're like, oh, I need Delta patients, but, you're able to kind of like pick things that fit where you're at right now. Which is really cool. And, like if you don't mind sharing maybe like some advice for people who are kind of struggling to like balance everything, because it is a lot, to take on. I guess like, maybe since you started, like what have you learned as far as like life balance goes with the business?
Yeah, that's a constant struggle, I will say. And yeah, definitely having a supportive partner is helpful because I had to tell my husband, okay, this many days a week, you're going to have to, pick up the kids when he's been kind of getting used to not having to do it at all.
Yeah.
And let's see, I'm starting to, I've been following you a lot and just kind of realizing that whenever you put the things that you want to do first, sometimes like exercise or like I was able to go with my daughter on a school field trip, which is part of the reason, one of the main reasons that I am doing this also is so I can have more flexibility with my kids. And it just seemed like whenever I do more of those things, I somehow wind up with more patience, which is counterintuitive. Um, so yeah, it's like you just have to trust that if you live your life and you do the things that you want to do, that you're gonna kind of meet people along the way, and then they're gonna find out about you. So
Yeah.
I will say I joined a networking group also, which has been really helpful.
Cool.
We meet once a week, so we're always at top of mind for each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I am working on trying to incorporate a meditation habit.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, we'll see. It's kind of spotty right now, maybe once every couple weeks, but I'm hoping to be more consistent.
Yeah, and I love that you like bring that up because even though we haven't talked in a little while, I feel like we're kind of like on the same like path sort of right now because like you were saying with the like doing things for yourself, right? Like, that I totally agree with you. I swear. Like anytime I go on vacation, or, like you're saying, like I actively decide, like, hey, I want to do this stuff. Like currently, I decided on Sunday, I am now a professional athlete. So we'll see where that takes me.
I mean, at this point, I think anyone can do anything they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. All in the mindset, but like choosing yourself first, I feel like it just gives you like this kind of energy that it's so attractive to the right people, the ones, that you're supposed to work with, or have in your life. And the thing with like creating healthy habits, like that is something that I think we put up like a lot of barriers ourselves to, and saying like, oh, I don't have time to do this stuff. And so like one thing I just wanted to share with you because like it's really helped me is creating habits with the bare minimum, which I got from one of the books that I read. But basically it's just like, okay, instead of like saying, okay, I need to meditate for like 30 minutes a day, just being like, okay, I'm gonna meditate for 30 seconds every day, and then it's just like, well, that's so easy, like anybody could do that, and it makes it so easy to succeed that eventually like things just kind of like build on each other. And like I'm doing that with reading right now every day. Before you go on TikTok, you have to read for 5 minutes.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of getting in a TikTok.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But I am so glad that you brought that up because it's like it's so powerful. I think when you wake up every day and like actively decide to do things that, resonate with your values and there are things that you want to do, like, woo woo and everything, but like the universe just sends you more of it.
Yeah, it's like things that you did 6 months ago that you thought were a waste of time. All of a sudden you get a patient and you're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that wasn't a waste of my time after all.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of going off of that, I know like one of the things that you had wanted to kind of like share tonight too is the fact that all of the cliches are true. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that and what your experience has been.
Yeah, so just kind of listening to you and listening to some of the other coaches online and reading books, or I do audiobooks because I just can't sit and read like you're attempting. You just hear the same themes and they're true. It's like you almost have to fail in order to figure out where you're going to go, what's going to be successful. A lot of times, some of the scripts that Morgan would give me to tell people on the phone, I would leave out a chunk and then I would understand, man, I understand now why that piece was so crucial. Because if now I were to do the phone call again, I would for sure include that piece. But but yeah, and then like you were talking with one of the other entrepreneurs on the same interview about Nike, just do it. And a lot of it is just doing it, because and it's not going to be perfect. And nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And then just and then if you compare yourself, like somebody's always better than someone else and someone's always worse than someone else. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. So you just do you and meet people who are like-minded like you, who are going to gravitate to you. But yeah, I don't have any specific quotes or anything right now off the top of my head, but I just know that this whole way I'm like, oh, this is exactly happening, like how everyone says. And anyway, there's a morning show that I've listened to ever since I was in college, and it's called The Bobby Bones Show, and they're syndicated nationwide, so some of y'all might have heard of him, but he has a book, and it's called Fail Until You Don't, and it's exactly entrepreneurship. You almost can't know what to do before you do it. So any amount of research you do, you just have to do it and learn from your own experience. Like if you're a teenager and your mom's trying to tell you, don't do that, that's bad, you're going to do it anyway, because you just have to learn for yourself. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny too, because it is like kind of like analogous to like therapy school. Like whatever therapy you're in, like I think a lot of us learn best by being quote unquote hands-on, not like always like manual therapy or whatever, but like working with actual patients. And sometimes like building your business is almost the same as like working with somebody who, maybe has like this like gradual onset pain that's kind of like wonky, and responds differently to like different stuff, and so you start one treatment. Does it work? Does it not work? Doesn't work? Okay. Treatment option number 2. Like, let's try this out, until you finally like crack it. And I guess like for anybody listening, like if that resonates with you, it's pretty similar with business stuff too. And so as like scary, I guess, as business starting one can be, you already have a lot of the problem solving skills that you need in order to start.
When I look back, I remember first creating my website, and I was so scared to press, live or go live, because I thought that I was going to have this huge influx of patients, and I didn't have all my forms together. But that's not the case. So that's another reason, just do it, just put it out there. You can fix it later. But it's just kind of one of the steps that, it's important to have a website so people can find you. So
yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, if anybody else is scared about it, guess what? When you click publish, it doesn't like alert the entire internet.
It's not. Still in the hole.
Nothing will happen.
Yes. You've got to work to get that website to show up on the search.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I know like another kind of thing, like everybody always asks about marketing, right? Like what's the best way to market? Does this work? Does this work better? So I guess like another question that I have for you, like over the past couple of years now, what have you seen work best for you? And, maybe like why? And I guess maybe like, let's just start there. 2-part questions are never good. Everyone forgets the second part.
I mean, definitely, like everyone says, word of mouth is the number one driver. That's why I think the networking group that I'm in is so helpful, because we meet once a week. We get to know each other. Other people in the group have used each other and can vouch for each other. They don't want to keep anyone in the group that's like not offering good service. Yeah. And then, I mean, I will say I did get those few leads from that Facebook group before we kind of figured out how to get around Texas's stringent laws about things. So yeah, now I just evaluate the person, ask them who their doctor is that they've either seen for that condition or seen last, send it over, and I've never had a physician not sign.
Cool.
So that solved that problem. And I mean, I asked, on the fax cover sheet if this is okay with you,
Yeah.
But yeah, word of mouth. That's how that neurologist found out about me, because
Okay.
I had a really happy patient. And so then she sent me another, and they were really happy, and sent me another, and just hoping it keeps on going.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Facebook group, I've been pretty consistent until the past month and a half, because I have been so busy. So I need to get back on that. And I would go into other groups and be like, hey, want to know about how long you should tape your ankle after a sprain? Come to my group. And so that's how I've gotten a lot of the people into my group. And then I'm trying to think what else that has been significant. This vendor event I did, what I felt like was pretty successful. I think I'll have a couple patients from that, like solidify. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that have not worked. Like a lot of things.
What? Oh, tell us, Hayley.
Well, and I think that it just depends on your personality, right? So I've done a lot of screening events where I go to Gold's Gym or, Orange Theory, and I set up with a table, and I, look at people's injuries that they have, and I do a quick little 5-10 minute screen, give them a couple pieces of advice, give them my card, tell them I can help you, and then nothing. Yeah. So that is not my strong suit. And then let's see, trying to think what else. There's just so many things.
I think one kind of quick comment that I want to make on the screenings, and I think it would be interesting to hear, anybody who maybe watches this in a group, if you do screenings and they work great for you, please tell us, and let us know what your magic sauce is. But something that I talk a lot about with the students in the coaching program is, it's almost like if somebody comes up to me at the gym and I will put the disclaimer, if I'm currently looking for physical therapy patients, which is not always for me personally, but if I'm currently looking for patients and somebody comes up to me in the gym and says, hey, Morgan, my shoulder's really bothering me, can you help me? If I do the typical thing, I would say for a lot of us, and you tell me what you think too, Hayley, but if somebody comes to me with pain, I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? Did you have an accident? Did it just gradually come on? Tell me all about the injury history, and why don't you try this and try this and try this, right here and now, and then go home and do these exercises and let me know what happens. If I do that, I feel like it sort of gives the person the impression that if they just do those things, then they'll be fine. But then, because people in general, I would say, are not great about self-motivated execution of things, they might do them that day and then stop, and then nothing, they still end up having the problem. And I'm speaking to that from both the professional view and the patient view, because I've done that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if maybe that's the phenomenon maybe that's going on with screenings, versus if I'm currently looking for patients, I almost never talk to them about their injury right then and there. I might ask oh, what happened, to sort of screen them in my head as to whether I can help them, right? We want to do on our little discovery calls.
Right.
Yes. But then if I think I can help them, I'll say hey, I can't talk right now, but like, let's set up another time to talk, or like go ahead and schedule an appointment. And it's almost like a better way to capture people, maybe, because you're telling them like exactly what needs to get done, instead of just, like, try this and like, let me know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I can understand that, because too, if they go home and they try the exercise and it doesn't work, they're like, well, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
That could be their thought process. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that leaving a little more mystery is probably the way to go about it. Because yeah, it's almost like you're giving too much when you do these screens, or at least that's how I feel, that it's like too much.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're getting.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have not worked so well.
Yeah, and it's almost like maybe it's just like an information overload, for the patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of interesting. That just like popped in my head, and I'm like, oh, like maybe that's why people who I've talked to at the gym like that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't end up scheduling them.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear that other people are having the same issue.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, geez, I've been here for like 3 hours. I've seen like so many people and nothing. Or I've had the experience where it's like nobody's at my table, so it's almost like nobody wants to come to the table.
Yeah.
It's like if they see somebody there, then they want to do it too,
Yeah.
like we like to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I've gone, this particular place was an indoor soccer facility. And I went to all the groups of people like, hey, this is who I am. If you're curious about an injury and you want to know if therapy can help, come hang out at my table with me.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think I had like 2 people that day, and I was there for like 2 or 3 hours. So it's a little disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. And like I've tabled once, and like, I mean, nobody cared to me like at all. And I think you're probably onto something with having somebody there. And so like maybe anybody listening to this, like a little sneaky like tactic maybe that you could do. Yeah, having a plant, and like bring like a couple changes of like clothes for them. And just have them come sit on your table like throughout the day. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see like if that helped. And then I want to say I remember have you done paid screens? And
Yes, I did paid screens one time, and that was actually pretty successful because I had the director of this one soccer club. And these were injury prevention screens. They weren't like these screens where people are already injured that we're talking about. But she was super gung ho and really excited about what I was doing. She heard about me from a friend of a friend, and she's an occupational therapist. And so she really helped me get this event together, promoted it well. So I had like a bunch of girls back to back, 30-minute increments outside, running them through different tests and things like that, and giving them a few exercises to try. And then the next day, actually, one of them did get hurt playing soccer. And so the mom called me and was like, hey, we want to see you. The only problem is that particular club is like 45 minutes away from where I live. So it was really nice to be able to, do those screens, get a bunch of work all in a short period of time. But then, yeah, it's like, I wish I could convince some of these other soccer clubs to let me do that there. I think because they're rec leagues, they're a little more, I don't know if they're more, like, regulated with what cash options they can offer. I have no idea. So something I need to work on asking them about. So
and just like seeing, I don't know, like trying different things. Like we're kind of talking about like with all of this. And I know my client Brandis, she was on this a couple of episodes ago. She has done like tabling at several volleyball tournaments for like, I think they're like club teams, and she charges And at least like on some of them, what's been helpful for her is if she like charges and she's there for like a 10-hour day, but she makes like $200-$300, it's like a decent day, like
Yeah.
money wise, like she kind of like paid for her time. And I think there's also like a fine line too, and this is where you probably have to know your audience, between like, doing it for free or paid, that if you do a paid thing, people I think perceive it as being a lot more valuable.
I think you're right. And, I actually did do a table event at a tennis tournament, and I got a lot of turnover. I got a lot of interest there, but not afterwards. But while I was there, I had several people try to pay me, and I just didn't even ask the guy if that was something that was even an option. And so, yeah, that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
You're like, let me pay you. Like,
for sure. That'll be
free, but yeah.
cool $100.
Yeah. I like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. And like, what have you thought of, like anything else that you would say like has like absolutely not worked?
I did put my business on my car. That hasn't been really that effective. I did get a call from it twice. Once was a guy that was just like, "Hey, what do you do?" I'm trying to do my own business. And then the other guy he lived like an hour away, and he's like, "Oh, I saw your car in town." So he must have been in Austin, but he lives like in a suburb, and they were just too far away. So, like that's but they played soccer, and they were anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. So what I am doing now, one of the newer things I'm doing is doing talks at active adult communities.
Oh, cool.
So, and I did get a potential patient there, but I was in Costa Rica, and I get a call from this lady, and I'm just thinking, oh, I'm not going to get any calls. So now I'm going the full opposite way, where oh, my website's there, I'm not going to have any business, to, oh, I can go away for a week and I won't. But I am now. And I called her back within 48 hours, and she was like, I'm already going somewhere else. It's like, darn it, I'm going to have to get myself like a virtual assistant or something to catch those calls. So,
yeah. But also on the other hand, if that's the way that she said that to you,
I reached out to the activities coordinator who had referred her to me. I was like, hey, if you see her, tell her I'm out of the country. I'm so sorry to not get to her call sooner. So I don't know how much that call to her costs, so we'll find out.
Oh my gosh. That's such a I haven't even really like thought about this before, thinking about not only like what has worked like well marketing wise, and of course like totally dependent on you and your personality, your audience, skills that you have, whether you're somebody who is like a lot more, I guess, like verbal, vocal, and like building relationships, or some of us who are more internet inclined, like playing to your strengths with it, but then like thinking about this, like on the other side, like what like absolutely does not work.
I did a presentation I'm in a Toastmasters group. And I had a whole list of the things that I've tried, and if I could find it quickly. But before the presentation too, I just kept thinking of more and more things that I tried, and I'm like, dang, I've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that's okay, because like going back to what you said before, like keep trying, keep failing until you don't. Yeah. And I was just thinking too, like things that I did at the like way beginning. Like I think I had like an open house. I don't think that I had an ideal location, I would say. I don't think that the location and even like the like pre-event promotion, I don't think was very good. And like I remember sitting at the gym with my table and I had a bunch of like flyers and I brought cookies and I was the only one who ate one.
Oh
And
man.
I'm like, oh my gosh. But that's fine. Like
Yeah.
I think, what were you gonna say?
I feel like the establishment needs to kind of help promote
Yeah.
you a little bit, or else it's
Yeah.
like nobody's going to be expecting you. And yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was kind of strange. And I think that's definitely like a good tip. Is to make sure, especially if you're paying rent there, that the business is open to you letting the members of the establishment know that the thing is going to be happening.
Right.
So that's key, I would say, to doing an open house, because like open houses or like meet and greet events, I've seen them be really successful with other people, but it's because like they're already kind of like the practice owners are already kind of like in the community there.
Right.
Or they have access to the members list and they can put up posters and everything everywhere. So I know like that didn't super work. And honestly, one of the best things that worked for me was just like going and showing up at the gym and like getting to know people and talking to them, and letting them know like what I do. And if you need help, let me know. And both gyms, it's so funny. Like I started getting clients at about 6 months of me going to the gym.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I play soccer on the weekends, and well, right now being the summer, all of the games are at 9 o'clock. So I can either play, or I've thought about putting a tent out and being like, hey, come talk to me.
Yeah.
But I just want to play so bad. And then too, I've contacted the head lady of our organization. Well, now we're part of a bigger organization, so I guess it's harder to get a hold of her to ask her permission, but she doesn't get back to me at all. So, sometimes I think it is better to ask forgiveness than permission. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that's in the back of my mind, something that I want to do also, is just set up a tent and talk to some people that are at the fields whenever I'm there. So
yeah. Ooh, or maybe I feel like I want to like brainstorm and like help you with this, because I feel like maybe it would be kind of cool too to have like, like maybe you play the first half and then like you said the second half, and like pass out orange slices and like Capri Suns to all the other adults and like
hard on it. I like it. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. And if you wanted to like invest more into it, like getting like swag, like I was talking to somebody today about the 4th of July parade here, and like there's one company that passes out like sweat towels that are like soaked so you can put them on your neck and make it like a lot cooler. They pass them out every single year, and like doing something like that maybe even would be kind of cool, because it's like a tangible, reusable thing versus like a throwaway thing, like a Capri Sun.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that could be something with that.
Actually, a good idea. I like it.
Thank you.
It's like you should do business coaching or something.
Really? You think you'd be good at it? Like marketing stuff?
Definitely. 100%.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Hayley. And I think this has been so cool. And like, I really appreciate you being like so open about, like your journey and like what's worked, what's not worked. And the fact that, like you've shown that over time, you can kind of like switch it up, like who you are trying to work with. And that's okay, and like and the truth of it is you probably will. Like whatever you start with right now, you'll probably change eventually, or come up with like a second version and then a third version and keep changing things. So this is so good to hear that, you're doing well. And like I mentioned before, like you're in charge, like you're not at the mercy of anybody. You're not, feeling like desperate to find people to work with. And you're putting yourself first too. So that's also good.
Too. Working on that one.
Yeah. It takes practice. Just like everything. Like every day is basically practicing like living and taking care of yourself. So
yeah, I do want to mention too, I have put up some TikTok videos and some, like, there's a nurse practitioner in my networking group, and she says she's shown patients my videos from time to time if they're applicable to what the person's coming in there for. So like I have one on good neck and pillow positioning if you have neck pain. There's a few crutch ones. Actually, the first one I put up, it has like 30,000 views right now, and I have no idea how that happened.
Oh my gosh, Hayley, that's so cool.
Really don't know how to use crutches. That's why. How to fit them. That's what it was. It's how to fit your crutches to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so I feel like that's kind of a way I can get in with like physicians, probably be like, oh, here's a TikTok video. Yeah. Let me show it to you right now, or go on to her handle. So
yeah, I mean, like video content is like basically like king right now, and it's always like video content is always so good because you can just use it in so many different ways, and TikToks are great resources because they're so short.
Yeah.
And
I try to keep them short because I don't watch the long ones, so I figure other people aren't. Yeah.
I know. Oh my gosh. My that app has significantly impacted my attention span.
Yes.
So, but I just ignore that. I don't think
you like start setting time limits.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Shut off apps or something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Something. But I guess, maybe kind of like wrapping up here. If you had to give Hayley of, what year is it? 2022? Hayley of 2019 advice, what would you tell her?
I would say just do it, as we talked about, one of those cliche phrases. But yeah, one of the biggest regrets I feel like that people say, and I would agree with, is not starting sooner. Part of me is, those own limiting beliefs. I think back to when I was a kid, I said I'm from a town an hour south of Houston. And when we would drive into Houston, I used to think, you must be really special and really smart to work in a skyscraper, because I thought those were just so unique. And so then starting my own business, for some reason, I thought at some step of the way, someone was going to say, stop, you can't do it. You just can't. And nobody does that. And so it's just your own limiting beliefs that have you where you are. So anyhow, that would be my advice. Just do it. Write it on your mirror. That's what I did. When I get in a funk, sometimes I write, just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Like, just the only person, like, blah, like, what a cliche, like, that the only person who's going to stop you is you. But like, honestly, it's so true. And even when like you start your own business, and I think like you experience this as well, like when I started mine and I'm like, like I own a business, like everybody in your community and people around you are just like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that's so cool, good luck.
Yeah,
like
they're supportive. Yeah.
And I think like a lot of people like fear like the judgment or whatever, and fear people saying something negative. But at least up until this point, like, knock on wood, nobody has, or if they do, they at least don't say it publicly or to my face. So, so anyway, yeah, I think, if you're listening and you're considering doing it, like whether it is like opening a like therapy practice or it's using your therapy skills to build another business, go for it. Like the worst thing that'll happen is that it doesn't work.
That's right.
And then you just try something else and it'll be great. Oh my gosh. All right, cool. Well, anybody listening, if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, or come put them in our group if you're listening to the podcast. And Hayley, if you don't mind, can you tell people where to find you?
Sure. So I'm a mobile physical therapist also. I don't know if I mentioned that, but my company is Soccer Fitness and Recovery. So you can go to soccerfitnessandrecovery.com. If you want to check out my TikToks, they're under at Hayley, Hayley, 8, like the number 8, S4. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go look at them. I think I have seen them before. I'm going to go watch all of them again.
Yeah, there might be one with my little 3-year-old cussing, but there's also crutch ones and other things.
All kinds of content.
Like that moment when you realize you haven't cleaned up your language in front of your child still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Hayley. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
and
so good to talk to you and see you again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And all you guys watching or listening, again, thanks so much for checking this out. Hayley and I, we both started the businesses without knowing what we were doing, and here we are. We still don't know what we're doing. But we're making it work so we can do the stuff that we want to do. So please join the dark side and come with us into entrepreneurship. So thanks so much for listening, everyone, and we will see you on the next one.